Beautiful world. Welcome to Postgame with Simone. I am your host, Simone Deloach. And in this conversation, I have the luxury of catching up with Lyndsay Leikem, an Arizona native who came to Indiana and helped set the record straight that Indiana is no school to be messed with. Her, including the freshman class, helped really move the direction of Indiana women's basketball into where it is now, which is a phenomenal team, a phenomenal school. So I have the luxury of catching up with her and picking apart and understanding how she was able to help create and sustain such a culture. We talk about her ups and downs, some of the challenges she faced with coaching changes, as well as preparing for her career and having the option, having the choice to continue to play the game of basketball that she loves. So without further ado, I really hope you enjoy this one. I know I did. I cannot wait to have her back on the show. But for now, this is Lyndsay Leikem. All righty, Lyndsay Leikem. Welcome to
Hello.
the conversation.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you for coming and joining me in Postgame with Simone. Tell the people how we know each other.
Sure. Yeah. So I was a freshman at Indiana when Simone was a senior. So we played 1 year together, and it was probably the best year I had in college. So good times. And that's, what's scary though, is that was 8 years ago now.
Don't age me, because you get to say it was 8 years. For me, it's like, all right, I'm coming up on my decade since graduating from
Oh my God. Yeah. 8 years ago, we met in 2013. So
right.
I know.
And
It's crazy. It goes by so quick.
It really did. And you really don't know like the effect, excuse me, that those relationships will have on you until you're no longer with them.
Absolutely.
I know I'm back home in Texas now, and being away from Bloomington itself has been an adjustment, because I was just so accustomed to that college life, getting on the bus, walking up Valentine, just
we all remember that.
The food, the going out to eat, the bars that are there, the activity that the university had for all students.
Right.
Yeah.
I definitely miss it sometimes, especially when you have those long work weeks and you're like, oh, I just want to be in college again sometimes. But
for real,
how that
there's
goes.
no place like Bloomington.
No, there's not. And I tell people that all the time, and then everyone's like, no, this place is better, and I'm like, oh, that's not accurate.
I don't think that's right. No place like Bloomington, Indiana. You are from
Tucson, Arizona.
Tucson, Arizona. I was going to say Arkansas, but thank you for being ready. What was that transition like? Because you went from
it was very interesting. So I was prepared to move away my whole life, because I was prepared to go away and play basketball in college, but going from Tucson, Arizona to Bloomington, Indiana is a huge cultural, and like the setting was totally different. So it was a huge change for me, and I thought I was going to be prepared to move like 1,000 miles away from my family, but it was definitely a lot more challenging than I expected it to be. So I was prepared for it, but I wasn't at the same time, because I knew my mindset was ready, but like actually being away from your family for that long was pretty difficult. And then of course the weather, I didn't see snow until I moved to Indiana. So, and that year was like the polar vortex. So I was like, what the heck is going on? So that was interesting, but I adjusted. After about a semester, I felt better about it. But that first semester was pretty challenging for me to be away from my family like that.
And something that the university does that in the moment you're like, what the hell?
Yeah.
But they send you up there the summer before school starts, and you start summer.
Yes. Like I think I went to Bloomington about 3 weeks after I graduated high school. 2 or 3 weeks. So it was a very quick transition. Very quick transition. So it was the first 6 weeks in summer school was probably the most difficult for me, because my parents didn't go out there with me. They just put me on a plane,
Oh my
and
God.
Liz picked me up from the airport, and I had
You
to move
were
into
ready to go.
those old dorms. It was because we didn't get to go to Briscoe right away. We had to go
Right.
to, I forget what they're called. It's
I
like,
know they're like down the
I
street
don't
from the
remember.
library.
Yeah, I think they're called my dorm is called Hershey dorm is the
Yep.
name of it.
Mhm.
So yeah, that was the first 6 weeks, and then like getting used to that schedule, waking up at 5 a.m. and doing the Coach T workouts and stuff. I was like, oh my God. I was like, I knew this was going to be hard, but this is like terrible.
Right.
But after the 6 weeks was over, I was ready to come back in the fall. So it
Mhm.
was just that adjustment period. It was tough for sure.
I was gonna say, so not only were you coming to Bloomington for the summer for school, but to get your
Mm.
ass kicked in some of these summer work.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, the summer was very challenging workout
yeah.
wise.
And it's one of those, like you said, you can prepare as much as you can, but you really aren't ready for the intensity of
Yes.
of a schedule. You're up
Yeah.
before anybody, literally anybody,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
and you accomplish like 4 things before like 9 o'clock, and that's
And that's
from
not even,
half your day.
yeah, not even half your day.
Right.
You go all the way until like 8 p.m. and then you got to wake up and do it all over again. So yeah, it was a tough adjustment, but I got used to it pretty quick.
Well, let me tell you, I'm gonna toot your horn a little bit. You were a superstar from the get-go.
Well,
Let me tell you, the summer. So I guess it's the semester before you got there. So it's the fall, like the spring, like right after the season ended, and we were in like post-game, post workouts, and heading into summer, right? Heading into that new freshman class. The coaches were, ooh, they hyped y'all up. They were like, we got some new people coming. Y'all ain't ready. I remember one coach in particular, Coach Brandy, she put me aside and she's like, we have a shooter coming from Arizona and she can be like that. And I remember thinking like, okay, let her shoot then. Like, I don't want to be shooting anyway. Let me go get those rebounds for you.
Right.
But they were really like, they were doing their best to try to create a very healthy culture there. So you experienced 2 coaches, actually 3, but 2 at Indiana. I as well experienced 2 coaches at Indiana. And so when Coach Miller and the squad came on, we were the leftovers. And so there was a lot of adjusting on coaching style, on communication. I mean, the whole thing was just like world flips upside down.
Absolutely.
And so when the freshman class of 2014 were going to join us, it was like, ooh, like fresh meat. Like we're no longer going to get picked on. Like he'll find somebody else to be mean to, or we can take a break. But let me tell you, it was, I mean, you couldn't have said it better. It was probably my most favorite career year ever of my life. You guys came in and yes, y'all were like a little timid and just still bright-eyed and freshmen, literally freshmen, but you guys came in to rock and we tore the house down. I mean, from breaking records to having more people in the stadium that we had ever had probably in the first 3 years of my career. And we did it having the time of our freaking life. It was about basketball, respectfully, but having like a good time doing it. And I don't think I've ever experienced it in my career. So
that was probably my favorite year. So, but yeah, that freshman class, I remember it being a big deal because it was Coach Miller's first recruiting class. And there were 7 of us that came in, 6 recruiting that were recruited, and then there was 1 walk-on. So I remember being a part of that big freshman class. So it was nice to, go through that first year with a big group like that, because I wasn't like one of the only freshmen. There was a huge group of us, so we were all learning and adjusting at the same time. But there's also a huge group of seniors, so it was good to like have that big group of freshmen to go through things with, but then have that big group of seniors to learn from. So it was an interesting mix because there was a bunch of seniors, a bunch of freshmen, and like 2 people in between. So there's like that big group of experience, and then all the new people, and having to like learn how to work together and learn from each other. It was a good experience, and it was really fun to learn from each other and learn how to work together as a team. And we ended up doing really well that season. That's when we went to the WNIT and we made it to like the semifinals, I think. But that tournament, the post game tournament at the WNIT, was probably some of the best times we had as that team, because we were so fired up. We played really well together. So good times.
It really was. And I honestly can't wait to get back to Bloomington to just celebrate and just be there again, because I know so much has changed.
Right.
Walking into the facility, right? Cook Hall, Assembly Hall, the stadiums where we worked out. What were your first impressions of, you spoke of the senior class. Yeah, there was a bunch of us. We had Sasha, who was like 7-year senior. She was the grandma.
Yeah.
You had me, Lika, newbie, who were like the true seniors, right? We've been there from all the way through. And we had Tabitha, who joined us from her school, who transferred. What was your first impression of of us? Because we were a different class.
Yeah. I mean, I was pretty intimidated at first, because you guys, there's 4 of you are post players. So that's 4 senior and post players that I'm, competing against and stuff. But I mean, I ended up I learned a lot from all of you guys, just not only on the court, but like, going through school and just like making it through the demands of each day. Just seeing how you guys handled that. I ended up not really worrying about competing against you guys for playing time or anything like that. It's just because I was a freshman. So, I wanted to play, but I understood at the same time, it is what it is. And right now it's my time to learn and to grow and, learn from these people who have been here for so long. And so at first I was like a little bit intimidated, but, I learned a lot from all of you guys, and the camaraderie we had was really fun. You guys were all super welcoming to us, and super, you just welcomed us with open arms and taught us a lot. So I really appreciated all that from you guys.
Well, absolutely. I mean, and you especially, I think you made it easy for us to do so, right? You didn't come in trying to know it all, which I think it's a talent. Like it's a special skill to be able to know a lot, but also be willing to learn. I had something else to say. Maybe
it's hard.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's hard because like everyone wants to go play college, and you expect, because you're a star at high school and you're a star in AAU, but when you get to college, it's a completely different story. You're not the best anymore. You're one of a lot of really good players. So it's kind of a big adjustment. That's something I think I struggled with probably the rest of my career after that, because my freshman year, I was obviously, frustrated with some things, but that just goes with playing college basketball, because, we all show up and work hard and expect to play, but you have to understand, you're not the best anymore. You have to work for it and understand what the coaches expect from you. So that was probably one of the bigger challenges that I faced during my time in college in general. Just because, you put all that work in, and then when you don't see time on the court, it's really frustrating. So, yeah.
And to that point, do you feel, looking back, that was the end goal? I worked this hard to get playing time, or is it bigger than that?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I knew the most important thing about playing college basketball was getting my education, because that's one of the biggest benefits of getting an athletic scholarship is not having any student debt and getting an education from this really great university. So, and in the back of my head, that was obviously like the biggest thing of importance for me, was working on my school and getting my degree for free, essentially. I mean, we put a lot of hard work into it, but we not having to pay and leave school student debt. But I think probably working so hard and putting all those hours in, and trying to be at the top of the group in summer workouts and preseason workouts, and making, like, being a leader and stuff. And then when you get to the courts, you don't see as much playing time as you want to. It's frustrating. And I get that, I had to come to terms with the fact that I probably, I wasn't the best on the team anymore. And I figured out why I wasn't playing, and it was still hard to accept because it's like, what am I doing all this for,
Right.
So that's one thing they don't really talk to you about when you're in high school, getting ready to go play college is,
No.
you might not have to, you might not play as much as you want to. So you have to adjust and find other things to be great at on the team and find your role and stuff like that. So, yeah, that was probably the biggest adjustment I had to make. And it's something that I didn't really come to terms with until I was almost done at Indiana. So it made my time there a little bit more difficult than it should have been. But at the at the time, you don't realize it. You're just frustrated. So, yeah.
Well, I'm going to give you something tonight. And I know we're post game where we're seasons away from being on the floor since our last time on the floor. But I'm going to say, challenge you in saying that you were the best in your position. Like I'm getting emotional. you came in for the like forward position, right? As a shooter with somebody with quick feet, you had speed on you. You knew how to handle the freaking ball. And as much as you worked, as hard as you worked, I had to now show up and work harder because you were showing up to work. And I didn't know how to, I can dribble the ball right from the free throw line to the block, but you were the one that was taking it from from half court and handing it off to the guards and setting yourself up to be successful around the rim. And so your work showed up on the floor even when you weren't on the floor, because when a shot went up, I worked my ass off to go get anybody's and everybody rebound. Like I was going to get that rebound. And I attest my hard work on the floor when I was on the floor because of the work you were putting in off the court, even when you weren't on the court. And when we would sub in and you would come in for me or somebody else, I knew we would be okay because Lyndsay's in the game and she knows what she's doing. So you were the best and you made me better, therefore the team better.
Thanks.
So yes, that's necessary for you to hear today, right now.
Yeah. Thank you. And I think it changes every year because new players are coming in all the time. So my freshman year, I definitely think I was, one of the few small forwards who could, shoot and dribble and all that stuff. And that was, it was all well and good my freshman year, but my sophomore year, and behind me came Amanda Cahill. It was an amazing player, and she was the sweetest, most genuine human I've ever met in my life. So I loved playing with Amanda, and she was a really great player, and she still is a great player. So, having that success my freshman year, and then my sophomore year, having someone bigger and better coming in to challenge me and, work against for playing time, it was challenging. And it was challenging for myself. It's not like, you hold any animosity towards the other players because she was great. And I can admit, that she was better than me in a lot of things. And, that's just how college is, every year someone's coming in to replace you. So it was challenging because that freshman year, I was like, you know what, this is my spot and I'm doing really well. And not only did I have other players coming after me, but there was a huge coaching change after my freshman year. So that also played a huge part into how I played my game and the style of play that we played and how my confidence changed. So there was more than one aspect of how my game changed from freshman to sophomore year, for sure.
We're heading into the direction I was actually going in with unexpected changes. Like I said before, we both have experienced two different sets of coaching at IU. When that change happened, what do you feel is like the most significant for you as a player, but then also for you as a student athlete, as a student at IU? What was like the most significant change that you saw for yourself?
That change was really difficult for all of us because, like I said, we had that really big freshman class. There was 6 recruited players in that class, and we all, we were all recruited by Miller. He chose us for a reason because we fit really well into his style of play and the offenses that he chose to run. And we had really built a lot of confidence our freshman year. We had a lot of success on the court, and we got to know how to play with each other. And we just, that summer after you guys graduated, we worked a lot on our offense and our chemistry on the court. And, we're like, you know what, we're another year older and we have this experience now, a year under our belt. We know how things are run. We know how it goes. The seniors are gone. It's up to us, to teach the freshmen how this goes and show them, how to work together with us. So we had that, and we had that summer with Coach Miller. So, we had a really great summer with the freshmen too, because they all fit really well into that style of play as well. And they were all super willing to learn, and they were all super friendly. I loved all those freshmen. So it was a really, really, really great summer. And my confidence was at like an all-time high. I was shooting the ball really well. I was playing really, really well. And Coach Miller even told me that. He was like, I've seen a huge change in your confidence ever since the season's been over and the seniors are gone, and now you have that experience. So I was feeling good. We were all feeling good after that freshman summer, going into our sophomore year. And in August, there was, I'm not going to get into it, but Coach Miller's staff was gone, all of a sudden. It was really, really, really sudden to us. Like we had no idea. And all of a sudden we went into this meeting and, they were telling us that Coach Miller's resigning. And we didn't know how to, we were devastated. I was devastated. We were all sobbing and crying because, we had built so much trust into this system and this coaching staff and each other. And now all of a sudden when school's about to start, we have to change coaches, and we have 3 months before season started. And now we had to learn a whole new coaching system. It's kind of like we were freshmen all over again.
I didn't know it was that quick. I didn't know it was that soon, that sudden. Wow.
Yeah, it was the end of August. It was the end of July. And so it was literally the week before we went back to home after summer school. So we learned our coaching staff was gone, and then we went home for 3 weeks and we had no idea what was going on. They ended up hiring a coach in during that 3 weeks. So we weren't there to meet the staff or anything. We showed back up to school and we had a new coach. Again, we were familiar with Coach Morin because she was at Indiana State. So we just didn't know a lot about her. And we were scared. I was scared. I'll speak for myself because I don't know how everyone else felt, but I was nervous. I was scared. I was still upset. I was still devastated at losing Coach Miller because, he was the perfect coach for me and my style of play and my confidence and stuff. So, having to go into a completely new staff and system, and and I'll admit myself and a lot of the rest of my class, we were really kind of resistant to this change because we just loved Coach Miller so much that having to change coaches at the beginning of our school year, it was devastating. So coming back and having to learn, meet new coaches, and they did the best they could too, because this was unexpected for them as well. 2-3 months isn't a long time to work and get to know your team before you have to start a season. So we tried our best to learn each other and get to know each other and understand what would be changing, but it was still challenging. I think Coach Morin had a little bit different style of play and a different coaching method than Coach Miller did, and that was really difficult for us to adjust to because he was all we knew. We had a lot of faith and trust in him, and having to completely give that up and meet this new coach and understand how she worked, it was very difficult. And then on top of that, we had she had a death in the family, so she was going through a lot, and I had a death in my family. My grandma died in October of that year. So personally, I was going through a lot, and I know the coaching staff, they were going through a lot as well, just adjusting to these new players. And I'll admit I was resistant towards change,
right?
Just because I had been so set and I was so happy before. So it was, and on top of that, having to deal with my grandma's death, that semester was terrible for me in general. And, I didn't really fit into their style of play like I did in Coach Miller's. And that's not anybody's fault. It's just how the cards were dealt.
Yeah.
But at the time, I was super frustrated. I was irritated. I was annoyed that, I wasn't seeing the same, not, I wouldn't say support, because they supported all of us the best that they could. But I just didn't fit that well, and it was frustrating to me. I lost a lot of my confidence that year, and that season was challenging for us. We didn't really do that well. I think we split our record, just because the adjustment and having to deal with the coaching change and all that stuff. It was a hard year for everyone, including the coaching staff, and they did have to deal with us. I mean, we weren't the most receptive to them,
Right.
and I'll admit that.
Right.
But we were kids. We're adults, but at the same time, we're young.
Yeah.
We're 19 years old and having to go through a huge change for the second year in a row, because we changed the first year when we came to college, and then we had to change again our sophomore year with the new coach. So it was a tough year for everybody that sophomore year, and we had a lot of transfers that year after the season was over, and I had decided to stay because I was a year, because of summer school. We have 12 weeks of summer school. I was a year off from graduating.
So you would
I loved Indiana.
You were already on track to
because we had to do 12 weeks of summer school. So I got, we were able to get ahead in credits. So I talked to Lori and Price, our amazing academic advisor, and we worked it out, and she was like, yeah, you can graduate in a year. So be done in 3 years. And I was like, I don't really want to leave Indiana, because I love this school. I love the atmosphere. I love my program that I'm in. So I was like, I'm just going to stay another year and play and be as positive as I can and get my degree here, because that's, that was the ultimate goal. I was getting my degree from Indiana, and I loved Indiana, so I didn't want to leave. I ended up staying another year. I worked hard again that summer, and, I became more open to the coaching stuff, and I still had my issues, with them, because I think I was still just bitter and upset about losing, because in the back of my head, I was like, what could have been with Coach Miller? And it's not healthy to think that way, but, I was still young and experiencing those issues in my head for the rest of my time at Indiana. And it was challenging, but, I became more receptive to them, and I kind of accepted my role after a while. Like I said, I was playing behind Amanda Cahill, who I love to death, and she's an amazing player. So I kind of accepted that, and I was like, it is what it is. And I was team captain, even though, I wasn't on the floor that much. But I think they made me captain because I worked so hard in the off season, and I had really good grades, and I feel like I kind of stepped into a leadership role. So, I took that role on, and I worked hard, and I tried to, be as positive as I could, and I made it through. And I still talk to those coaches today, because I developed a good relationship with them. So I ended up leaving Indiana on a really positive note. So I'm glad I stuck it out that way, but it was definitely very challenging to lose not only my coach, but a lot of my teammates that I came in with, because we ended up losing 3 out of the 7 of us, and then I left. So out of my class, only 3 of them graduated after 4 years. So it was tough. But
thank you for opening that up, because I know that's not as an athlete, I realize it's difficult talking about my athletic experience with athlete people, people who just didn't have that experience, And so I know that I experienced my own trauma in my 4 years at IU.
Right.
So when I had the opportunity to share with another athlete, especially one that I experienced a little bit of that with, it's always like I can breathe again, like a refresher. So I appreciate you sharing
Yeah.
a lot of what you shared. I didn't know
Yeah.
that you experienced, especially that turnaround and how quick it was. I have a couple questions
Yeah.
for you in regards. My first question is, because this has actually come up in a few of my other conversations for post game, is the level of support. So
Mhm.
first question, did you feel supported outside of the coaching staff and like your family? Like, were there extra outlets that you could go to? And then the second part to that, if there weren't, where do you think you could have used it the most?
Yeah, obviously I have a really, really great support system with my family.
Yeah.
They're the best. So I had them always to fall back on, but there's only so much they can do um 1,000 miles away in regards to
Right.
basketball. So,
Right.
they're there for me, but at the same time they let me go through my own struggles.
Right. Yeah.
So they were always there for me. Obviously my teammates were all going through the same thing. So we talked a lot about it, and we kind of leaned on each other during that year because it was difficult for all of us. Most of us, the freshmen didn't have it as bad because they never really played for Coach Miller. They were there for the summer,
Right.
but they were able to adapt much quicker than we were. They did really well, and they ended up being a super solid class. Tyra Buss was in that class, and Amanda Cahill. They had really, really great careers at Indiana, and I'm super happy for them because they deserved it. They worked really hard. But that sophomore class, we all leaned on each other. We had a good amount of support there. And then, just obviously our surrounding staff, Liz Honinger, our Dubbo, she remained from the previous staff. She remained there. So, we were able to lean on her, and Lowe and Coach T and all them. So we had that, those exterior people,
Right.
outside of the coaching staff that we could lean on. But it was still super challenging. I mean, it was tough because we couldn't, we would express our frustrations, but at the same time, we were expected to be super positive about everything. Because you don't want to be negative all the time, but at the same time, there wasn't really an outlet I feel like we could have had with the coaches, because we expressed our frustrations to them a lot. But they were frustrated too. So it was just a tough time for all of us back and forth. So it is what it is, and that's how it went. But the program right now is super successful.
They're killing it.
So
Yeah.
they're killing it. Yeah. And I'm super happy for them because I want Indiana to do well. And I'm glad that, there's players there who, fit super well into that system. And I wish nothing but the best for that program and those coaches. So
Sure.
yeah.
Looking back at yourself, because you mentioned, your self-confidence at the time and how it did dwindle. And again, something unexpected, right? It was almost like a breakup. You would fall in love with this idea, this perspective, this way of playing the sport that you love. And then, you get ghosted almost, like in that feeling of behind, unanswered questions. And so you're confident.
And we really did, because we had no
Go ahead.
we had no idea why at the beginning. We had no idea why this was happening. And we found out later on, but at the time we were like, what is going on? Like,
right.
We were so confused and hurt, and no one was telling us anything. So it was hard. But the confidence part, I think I lost it mostly because I'll admit I wasn't super open to the new stuff. I loved my position in the old system, and they really built up my confidence, that coaching staff did. And I didn't feel like I was as open-minded with the new stuff, and I'll put that on myself. Looking back, I can see it now, but at the time I was just so upset and so frustrated that I couldn't really give the energy and the commitment that I gave to the old coaching staff. And then, in the midst of that, I lost my grandma, who I was super close to. So that just made everything worse. And that was right at the beginning of season. So I think I lost a lot of confidence. And it was, the coaches can give you confidence, but at the end of the day, you have to put that in yourself. It's on you to, stay confident and work hard, and just know that the work you're putting in is going to translate onto the court. So, I mean, looking back, I can say that now, but at the time, I was like, these coaches don't support me and they don't like the way I play. I don't think they like me as much. And, that's just how I was. And I can't go back and change it, but that's a huge part as to why I lost a lot of my confidence. They didn't play the same way as Coach Miller, and I didn't think that I could adapt to their system. So I wouldn't say that I gave up, but I was really, really, really discouraged. So a lot of it was on me, and, just the change in the staff was, it was different. So, and I didn't feel like I fit into it as well. So,
it's a lot. I mean, to your credit,
I
have a picture on my Google slide. It's of you guys. It's to your credit, you are an 18-year-old, 19-year-old young person, right? You're in that like weird adolescent phase where like you're still have like baby face, but you're like expected to like do chores and like, so you were like expected to be an adult, but also you were still very young. And so I commend you for being able to reflect and say, yes, a lot of it is my responsibility.
Absolutely.
But in hearing, as you continue to talk, right, you were granted senior captain, right? That's something that's a gift, and I think kind of unexpected at times. And you had senior captain, you were killing it in your degree, you're about to graduate early. And so in a way, by losing yourself in what you used to know, you were able to gain this whole new understanding of what it looked like to be a teammate.
Absolutely.
I know with my injuries, because there was multiple, it allowed me to sit back and be a different teammate than I was wanting to do on the floor. I had to be a teammate on the sideline. And so I relate to your statement about, loss of confidence and trying to figure out where you fit in, but then end up finding a place that you did fit in and doing it well, almost just as well as you did when you knew who you were in that system. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So, and I'm at the end of the day, I would probably do it all over again, because it really shaped who I am today, and it made me super adaptable. And I'll talk about that more later on with my fourth year playing, because I had to be super adaptable to that too. But it really helped me a lot in my just personal growth and understanding of the world and how it's not fair and it doesn't always go your way, and you just have to kind of figure it out and make the best of it, which is what I feel like I did. I was still frustrated with the lack of playing time, and that's just, it is what it is. I still got to play D1 basketball and experience that and be an Indiana Hoosier, and I would never give that up for anything. And I'm glad I took away what I did from my experience there. And that last year I grew a lot, and I feel like I matured a lot. And I think the coaches were able to see that, see my maturity and my growth. And I'm glad that I really left there on a positive note. So,
Well, we would be raising eyebrows if you hadn't matured. So it goes right? Like that's the hope that you're not the same person you were when you walk in, when you leave out, hopefully for the better.
Right. For sure.
So you mentioned another transition, right? Again, unexpected changes. And I love this one, especially because I know that it like mirrors very well with your current career, which I'm excited to talk to you about as well.
Yeah.
But you came in blazing as far as like not only basketball, but like what you were going to study. And then, so talk about like what you studied, and then how that transitioned to career number 2, and then what you're currently doing now.
Yeah, sure. So my dad is a police officer, and pretty much my whole life, I've wanted to be in law enforcement. I've always been kind of morbid, because I love, reading about crime and crime documentaries and all this stuff. I really enjoy the investigative process of it. I think it's the coolest thing in the world. And I still, to this day, I love it. So coming in to Indiana, my goal was to be in the FBI. I wanted to be like a criminal profiler, like on Criminal Minds.
Yeah.
And that was another, I mean, that was another thing I had to change and adapt to because going, studying about the career and learning about it, there is no criminal profilers in the FBI. There is, but there's like 3 of them, and they've all been in the FBI for like 30 years. So it wasn't really a viable career for me. So my goal kind of changed to, okay, I'm going to do some type of federal law enforcement, whatever it is, FBI. There's tons of them, marshals, all that kind of stuff. So my whole goal at Indiana was go to the FBI. I'm going to the FBI. As soon as I turn 23, I'm applying, and I'm going to go to Quantico, and I'm going to be an FBI agent.
Hell yeah.
So that was my so that was my goal. And for that I double majored in criminal justice and psychology at Indiana. So I went through that. I loved it for the most part, and I graduated there with a double major with criminal justice and psychology. So after my 3rd year at Indiana, I didn't plan on playing basketball anymore. I was like, I'm done with that. I'm over it. I played my time. I got my degree, and now I want to start my career because that's what I was super passionate about it. So after the season was over, I started applying. And at the time, both of my sisters lived in Washington, D.C. So I applied to work at the Capitol, the United States Capitol Police, which is a federal law enforcement position. Yeah. Thank God I did not get it based on the last few years. So I went through that process and I got through it. I made it all the way to a conditional offer of employment, and I signed it, and they're like, as long as you make it through the medical background and the psychology background, you get the job. I was like, great, this is awesome. I'm going to live in DC. I'm going to be a federal law enforcement officer. It's going to be awesome. And so I ended up going back for the medical exam, and I have hearing loss. I've always had hearing loss, and it's pretty minor. I've known about it for a long time, since I was in like 4th grade. And so I go through the medical exam, and they're like, hey, you have a hearing loss. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And they're like, so we can't hire you. And I was like,
oh, wow.
What? Yeah. So the federal law enforcement standards that you have to have like perfect hearing. You can't have a certain decibel in each ear, miss it. I don't know. So I was like, I'm sorry, excuse me. Yeah. I was devastated because I was like, is this gonna like prevent me from getting my dream job? Like, what am I gonna do? So I didn't end up getting that job. So I graduated from Indiana without a plan. I was like, well, that was my plan. So what am I gonna do now? So I ended up moving. Yeah, I ended up moving back to Arizona for like a month. I went back to Arizona, and my parents came, and we drove all my stuff back from Indiana. And after I didn't get the job, I was kind of lucky into grad school and maybe playing another year because I still had that 1 year of eligibility. So I was looking, and I was like, I don't know if I want to do that. I haven't taken the GRE. So, maybe I'll just, take a year off into work and then go to grad school in a year. So I got back to Arizona, and I got a few phone calls from colleges wanting me to come play for them for a year for grad school. And I was like, I don't know. And then so I got a call from UMKC, which is University of Missouri in Kansas City. And I was like, I'm not going to live in Kansas. Are you kidding me? But I talked to the coaching staff, and I kind of knew one of the coaches because he had been at George Washington, which is a school I'd been looking at for grad school because they had like a really specific criminal justice program that I wanted. But he ended up leaving George Washington to go coach at UMKC. So he hit me up, and he was like, hey, you want to come over here and play? And I was like, I don't know. I was like, I don't want to go live in Missouri. And he was like, we're going to Italy at the end of the year. And I was like, I'll be there in a week.
I think I want to go to Italy.
So yeah. And I did in their grad school program, they had a criminal justice grad school program that I didn't have to take the GRE for. So I was like, I might as well take this opportunity. So, it's almost like I was meant to be here. So I literally showed up a week after I got that phone call because I had to do some amount of summer school to be able to go to Italy. So like a week I packed up some stuff, and I flew to Kansas City for the first time. And I like met this new team, and I was like, wow. It was really scary to just move to a new city, not knowing anybody. And, I'm with this new team. Yeah,
You had done it
but
in
I was
Indiana?
expecting that.
Oh, right, right,
Yeah,
right.
this was a week turnaround.
Yeah.
A week turnaround. I was like,
Oh,
but I'd already played in Indiana. I'd already done the whole thing, so I knew what to expect.
mhm.
So, I came to Kansas City. I was here for a month with this team before we went to Italy, and this team ended. I love this team. It was a fun year. We weren't the greatest, but I played another year. I um, got my degree, my master's degree, paid for, and now I still live here in the Kansas City area.
Mhm.
So I ended up, developing a career and a love for the city, and playing for a whole another coach. It was interesting. She was very, very different from either of the coaches I'd played for, and
Mhm.
it was a lower level of competition, as a mid-major. It wasn't like a big BCS school like Indiana. So, um, I kind of, I wouldn't say found a love for the game again, because I
Mhm.
still, loved basketball, but I kind of just, I didn't feel like there was as much pressure on me.
Ooh, yeah.
And, I just got to have fun playing basketball again. So
Right,
I
right.
kind of just finished that year out, and I got my degree, and I'm still here. So it
Yeah.
worked out really well, I guess.
No, it absolutely
Yeah.
did. And I love that love triangle that sports kind of creates for us, right? We do it as
Yes.
we do it as kids because our parents want us out of the
Mhm.
house. We
Yeah.
fall in love with it because all our friends are doing it, and then it becomes
Yeah.
this job, like this career, like this not like job, but like this intense, like it's going to get me somewhere. I must be good at
Yes.
this.
Yeah.
I got to get better at that, right? And so you fall in love with
Right.
that kind of that tug and pull relationship with it, fighting through injury, fighting through failed classes, and doing all that. And
Hmm.
then you fall out of love with it because life happens, and then you are like
Yeah.
able to like re-engage and say, oh, like I guess it is what it
Yeah.
going back to those old childhood loves for.
Yeah. Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. So, obviously basketball did a lot for me, but at the
Yes,
end
it
of the day,
did.
it wasn't going to be my whole life.
Right.
I loved it, but at the same time, I was like, after I'm done, I'm done, and I'm going to be ready to move on and start my career. Um, so
I
yeah,
think
that's what I did.
that's a story for a lot of us. Um, and that's
Mhm.
why one of the reasons why I wanted to start this conversation is to kind of put that, make it okay to not want to go further.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
because it can be, like you said, a lot of pressure um, on a lot of accounts on your body. I mean, I physically could not move my lower
Yeah.
half eventually.
Yeah.
So although my mind was like, keep going, keep going, keep going, my body, um, it just couldn't put out, it couldn't do anymore. Even now, like
Yeah.
when I go play recreationally, which I don't recommend,
Yeah.
I have to find a whole new sport because I have to sit out for at least a week and a half because my knees just
Yeah.
they don't do what they used to.
Yeah.
Uh,
I know last year I played a game, like some pickup, and I was like, I don't know how I used to play basketball for like 4 hours at a time. This is terrible.
do
I'm
not
old
enjoy
now,
it.
so
Yes.
yeah. Yeah.
So you were currently doing what in Kansas City?
Yeah. So after I kind of came to terms with the fact that federal law enforcement probably wouldn't be a thing for me because of my hearing.
Mm,
So while I was still in grad school, because I had 2 years of grad school, so I played a year, and
okay.
I had another year to finish my degree. So I stayed in Kansas City to finish my degree. I
Mhm.
didn't really plan on living here forever, but I got a job at like a children's division. It's like a CPS type of thing in
Mhm.
Missouri, because I didn't know. I mean, I just needed a job to pay my rent while I finished school.
Right.
So I wasn't trying to like start my career right away. But I wanted something kind of related to my field, which, and it was an investigator for the children's division. So I would go out and investigate claims of child abuse, which was,
Mhm.
I hated it. I hated it. And it's not because of the content. I mean, obviously the content of the job was terrible, but
Mhm.
I just didn't enjoy, it wasn't what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So I worked there for 6 months, and then I was like, I need a new job because I hate this. So I found a job at a police department, and it's Olathe, Kansas. It's a suburb of Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
And so they had a job there. It was called a community services officer, which is like a civilian job where you work up in the front office and you take police reports and you do a lot of research for officers, and you do investigations and stuff like that for them and help them out, and kind of a lot of administrative stuff. But I was like, that looks interesting. I love, I've been around police officers my whole life with my dad. So I applied there. I got the job right away, and I worked there for a year. And while I was there, I got to see, behind the scenes of police officers and patrol, and the types of investigations that they did. And, it was really interesting to me. And I kind of fell in love with the investigative process of just typical day-to-day police work, because that's where it starts. That's where all the big cases start, is the local police officers. So I applied to work for the patrol division after a year in the community services offices, and then so I went to the academy, and I've been on patrol for 2.5 years now. Yeah.
Turn up.
And I love it. I love it. Every day is different. My office is a car, so I don't know, every day I don't know what to expect. And I feel like I get to help people. And you get to see so many different types of people and deal with so many different things, and kind of see every walk of life possible in this job. And I love investigating. Just last week I work midnight shift, and last week I did a huge investigation about an aggravated burglary where this guy broke into someone's house, and I got to investigate that for like 12 hours straight and help write search warrants and all that stuff. So
wow,
it was super. It's like really what I love to do, and I love the process. And I mean, obviously it's challenging with the climate that we're in today, but I feel like I'm going to stay in it just because I want to be able to help kind of change the perspective that people have about police officers.
absolutely.
And at the end of the day, I just love the job too. I love doing it. And it has its challenges. There's things that I don't like about it, but I can't picture myself doing anything else.
Yeah. Wow. That's when it's the shoe fits, right? When despite the things that happen, the challenges that you face, that you're in the right space, right place.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, Miss Lyndsay, one of my last questions I'm going to ask you is in regards to your 18, 19-year-old self, right? We talked a little bit about her experience and what she was going through. Looking back, right? Of course, hindsight is where the blessing lies, because you're able to see some things that could have been different, things you would have done differently.
Yeah.
What would you give her? What would you either give her, tell her, show her? What would you give to your younger self?
I think the biggest thing I would try and tell myself is to be adaptable, and to understand that things aren't always going to go your way. Because when you're 18 and you sign that letter of intent to go play, you have this image in your mind of what it's going to look like. You're like, I'm going to go and I'm going to play and it's going to be so awesome. And, you don't think about the workouts and the long hours you're spent doing homework at study table and stuff. So I would just say to be adaptable and to understand that it's not everything's going to go how you think it is. So just, work through it and find the positive in it and get what you can out of the experience, because this is only going to last for a few years and then you're an adult, So I would also probably just tell myself to enjoy it more. I came to a point, I think, in college where I was like, I'm ready to start my career. And now, now that I'm in it, I'm like, oh, I'd do anything to like go back and play college basketball again and, live through that again. So, I'd probably just to be adaptable, take it as it comes and get everything that you can out of the experience. And then also to enjoy it more. I spent a lot of time, I feel like I spent a lot of time being negative. And I would go back and just, have a more positive outlook on the challenges that I faced. And so that would probably be the biggest thing I would tell myself.
That's beautiful. And it's also really kind of crazy, because without her, right, would you truly be where you are today? So it's like,
Right.
be a little bit more flexible, Lyndsay, but also thank you for being a little butt, because now I can understand, right? Like
Yeah.
flexibility, and because of your job, you can't predict what the future is going to hold, and so
Exactly.
kind of forcing you to do the thing that you were resistant to do before, which I think is
Yeah. Absolutely.
Aw.
I learned a lot.
Oh, Lyndsay, you're growing up. I feel like an old lady.
I know.
I
I am
appreciate
old.
you doing
I
this.
just turned 26. I feel
Yeah,
terribly
happy
old.
belated. I totally meant to tell you that.
Thank you. Yeah. No big deal. So.
Live it up. I remember being 26. I had a good time.
Yeah, life's good. Can't
Life's
complain. I mean, besides the pandemic, I have, a lot to be grateful for. So,
Sure.
yeah,
Thank you
I'm
for
in a good place.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. It was good. It always feels good to just talk about this stuff because, you can talk about it with other people, but for those, to talk about it with someone who's there and experienced the same thing that I did, it's always refreshing. So thank you.
Absolutely.